Welcome to the annual State of the School. And before we launch into tonight's presentation, I want to begin by addressing a topic weighing heavily on our hearts and minds yet again, which is school safety. We are so deeply saddened and angered by the tragedy committed in Nashville at the Covenant School, a community that in many respects is much like our own. As followers of Christ, we know that we are called to lift our brothers and sisters up in prayer, especially when they suffer. For this reason, tomorrow we will be offering a holy hour in the Our Lady of Guadalupe Chapel, beginning at 3 o'clock, so that we may unite our hearts with those experiencing unspeakable grief in Nashville, and we invite you to join us. I want to take this platform to reaffirm our school's commitment to the safety and well-being of our students, families, faculty and staff, priests and consecrated women, and administrators. While safety takes many forms on campus, from school threats, to digital safety, to safe environment training, even to the way our teenagers exit campus onto 141, please know that in both word and action, we are vigilant in our commitment to safety. That is our top priority, and we do what we say. Speaking specifically to school threats, with each passing tragedy, research-based insights emerge as to what best practices schools must follow to better protect their communities. An effective school safety plan is not based on a single tactic, but has many layers to it, including things such as communication strategies, regular audits of security plans, surveillance systems, communication infrastructure, procedures and drills, just to name a few. Even the inconvenience of visitors checking in at the front desk is a small component of a more comprehensive plan. Please know that experts caution us from sharing too much information about our plans, even in private conversation. As research shows us, and this incident reminds us, school shooters often form detailed plans that have some connection to their targeted community. Yet, let me reiterate, no single tactic is a panacea. It takes a multi-layered approach. In this regard, Pinecrest enjoys many advantages and enhancements to our infrastructure, but perhaps the most important advantage we enjoy is a close and collaborative partnership with our Sheriff's Office. Not only do they partner with us to develop, audit, and continually reassess our safety plans, they provide training for our administrators, faculty and staff, students and families. We have a direct line of communication with their leadership and are often able to gain insight into developing situations closely and quickly. I wish to take this moment to remind everyone that when Sheriff Freeman came to our town hall event last fall, he underscored that communication is absolutely critical. His mantra was, if you see something, say something. And he repeatedly mentioned that school safety is everyone's job. I ask for your partnership in this too. If you see something, say something. A few weeks ago, we had Deputy Sheriff Kevin Ferraro join our community for an entire day to facilitate workshops for middle and high school students on digital safety and best practices. He also took part in a panel discussion that evening geared for our parents on the topic of keeping your kids safe in the digital world. During that event, Officer Ferraro strongly encouraged parents to, quote, monitor, monitor, monitor. He explained that this is not a matter of being an intrusive parent. It's about protecting your child. As we reflect on this tragedy, as well as others, we note a common theme, that parents or friends either weren't aware of the warning signs or didn't communicate them. In order to maintain the safe and wholesome environment that Pinecrest enjoys, we need to practice what law enforcement experts so strongly recommend. Monitor, 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 and if you see something, say something. And again, thank you for your partnership in this. In the lead up to the state of the school, I received two predominant questions regarding security that I would like to address now. One of the questions was regarding when the keycard access door installation would begin, and the other question was about whether we can have a resource officer on our campus. Regarding the keycard access doors, we have already initiated this purchase. As many of you know, at this weekend's gala, we successfully raised the funds to install magnetic door locks on the exterior doors of our classroom buildings and gyms. While we are very consistent in manually locking our doors, and our staff audits this consistency on a regular basis, being able to program doors in advance removes the margin of error, and will also grant us the ability to lock exterior doors all at once, even from a remote location. On Monday morning, even prior to hearing about Nashville, I signed a purchase order to begin the installation process. We must first retrofit the hardware on some of the existing doors so that it will take time before this is operative. In the meantime, we will continue our vigilance in ensuring that doors remain locked, and we kindly ask that if you pledge to this project, that you send in a check soon, as that can only further expedite the process. Regarding the resource officer, we are in talks with the Sheriff's Office to explore this possibility again. At this time, there's not much more to communicate, apart from the fact that we are working towards this goal with the Sheriff, and we are optimistic. In the meantime, we are very confident that their response time is, as they shared at the town hall last fall, well under the national average. They know our campus layout extremely well, and they have strategically positioned officers to be patrolling in close proximity to our school at all times. I recognize there may be other questions you may have regarding school safety. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me directly, and I'm happy to meet or otherwise discuss these matters. Additionally, our team will be present at the Wine and Cheese to follow this event, and we'll be happy to answer questions there as well. In closing, I want to reiterate the importance of partnership. As the Sheriff's Office reminds us, everyone is on the school safety committee. As parents and educators, we must monitor the interactions that our children have, and most importantly, if you see something, say something. The safety of our community is the top priority, and our teachers and administrators understand that as both employees who work here physically each day, and also as Pinecrest parents ourselves. Thank you for your shared commitment to our mission. This time I would like to ask Father Matthew Catarabak to come forward and to pray for the community at the Covenant School in Nashville as they confront grief, and also to pray for the state of our school.
Let's pray in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord Jesus, we call down your divine mercy on the Nashville community at Covenant School that is suffering so tremendously right now. We ask your mercy on those who are killed, that they might rest in peace. We ask your mercy upon all those families that were affected by the shooting. Bring them healing, Lord. Restore peace to their community. Help them to forgive. And we pray too, Lord, for your continued blessing on Pinecrest Academy. We see your hand moving all around us as you guide us, lead us, and fill us with so much joy on this awesome mission of forming our students into the future Christian leaders our society so desperately needs. Continue to help us find the best ways to form these children, to strengthen our entire school community. Keep us safe. Keep us excited about following you. Use us, Lord, as your apostles to society. Let's pray together. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Christ our King, but the most pure. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Amen.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Dockstader, and I am privileged to serve on the Board of Trustees here at Pinecrest Academy. And I know a lot of people here, but this is a really special year for our family. We have our youngest, Mia, is a senior this year, and we're fortunate enough to have 3 graduates, one of which is our daughter Maggie, who's 30 years old now. Son Cole, 28, and Anne Marie, who's 21, just graduated from Auburn. And this school and this community has been such a big part of our family. So much joy and friendships and love, and also a lot of trials and tribulations we've experienced here over the years. And the work that Pinecrest Academy is called to do is not easy work. You know, it takes a lot of faith, it takes a lot of perseverance, it takes a lot of love, and it's something that I really feel privileged to have been a part of for 25 years. So Mr. Rodgers gave me an opportunity this morning to speak to the faculty and the staff just for a few minutes. And I was really thinking about what can I say to these people that work tirelessly every day for our kids and for our families. And it was interesting because at the gala on Saturday night, it was definitely the 80-20 rule. I only knew like 20% of the people there. And I was like, this is awesome. This is great, because 15 years ago it wasn't that way. And what it did is it gave me a lot of hope for the future of the school. And we have a couple of our trustees here representing us here as well tonight. And I think one of the messages I wanted to leave with you is how committed we are as trustees to this school and to the leadership of Jake and Amy and Lenny and Joni and all the people that we have worked so hard and tirelessly with over the years. And as trustees, a lot of people think that we decide what the kids are going to have for lunch, or what color socks they're going to wear, or what teachers they're going to have. But we are very blessed, very, very blessed to have the leadership of Mr. Rodgers, and we work hand in hand with him because he's calling the shots and he's running the school. So we are here in very much a support role. We want to make sure that financially the school is stable. We focus on the mission of the school, and we leave everything else to the very capable people that serve our families and our kids every single day. So we're very grateful for that. David did a fantastic job, and his team, I know he won't take much credit, but the gala was phenomenal. And we had so much fun, and it just really brought back some of the great memories, when our kids were little. And now we're hoping for grandkids, that one day we can also send or help send to Pinecrest Academy. So I'm always available. There's an email address on the board section of the website. If you ever have any questions or anything of that nature, we're always available. But we're glad you're here tonight, and thank you for the time. God bless you.
One of my favorite moments from the gala was Father Matthew's beautiful serenade right in the middle. And what was neat about it was, it was a bit of a surreal moment to be at an 80s prom, to see all the mullets and the mascara, and then to see a Catholic priest serenading everybody. But B, as is with all things with Father Matthew, he invested his heart into it and actually made it a worshipful thing, and that was really cool to see, so thank you for that. Just a little bit on our format. So we solicited questions in advance, and what we've done is we've taken all of those questions and we've worked them into the content of the presentation. When we did the run-through with the teachers this afternoon, it took us about an hour and a half to get through just the content that we want to cover. And so if you find that you need to get up and go, you're not going to hurt anybody's feelings here. We also have for those who wish to say, maybe there's a question that comes up during the course of the presentation that you didn't think of in advance. We've got the wine and cheese there. And then we are recording this event, and we'll send out the slide deck and everything else along with my comments on school safety in an email to follow to the whole community. This is the run of show, and so let me just dive right in. Any organization should have a list of strategic priorities that govern the day-to-day practice. And when Mark says that the role of a board is to look at the mission of the school, essentially this is one of the things that he means by that. As fiduciaries of the public trust, of the community's trust, what they do is they set that strategic direction. They come up with what are the priorities. And there's a lot more to these than just kind of these 3 bullet points. I mean, there's a lot of bullet points that fall underneath each one of these, as you can imagine. But nevertheless, these are the 3 priorities. And then what they do is they take those priorities and they entrust them to the school leadership to execute. In healthy independent schools, healthy organizations, that demarcation is really clear. In other words, when trustees get involved in the color of the socks or the uniforms, it becomes very messy very quickly. And at the same time, there's a check of accountability there too, because if an administration comes in and they don't have the right priorities, for example, there just has to be a counterbalance. So it's actually a very healthy way of operating and a best practice in independent schools to maintain that separation. And one thing that I will say, and I said this at the gala, is we could not do the work that we do but for our Board of Trustees. They provide excellent insight, they provide great advice, expertise, and every time I pick up the phone, they're there to help. And so I'm very blessed to work with a talented group of individuals. I'm also very blessed to work closely with our PAPA board, and I want to thank them for being here as well tonight too. The PAPA board does a lot to to coordinate our volunteer efforts across the campus, and again, just continually inspired by their commitment and their willingness to serve with whatever the need is. Thank you guys for all that you do. Noting these priorities, it's really critical to the future of Pinecrest that the order of those things be kept in the right sequence. And what I mean is, let me toggle back a slide. If financial decisions really govern the practice of education, it tends to undermine itself as a goal. If on the other hand, if we have a strong mission, if we lead with our mission, that brings to us the quality and the strength of the people that we need to fulfill that mission, both in terms of families as well as faculty and staff. It also allows for us to develop programs that make sense. And that then produces results. So keeping the order of these things really and truly matters and is intensely practical. Another example I would give is that if programs are developed within an organization as complex as a school, and they don't line up with our mission, that can create a lot of problems, right? And I think maybe all of us have witnessed that in various organizations that we've been part of. So the order of these things truly does matter. A clear, compelling mission leads to strong programs, attracts talented people, and produces results. One of the ways that we try to highlight, to lead with our mission, is through the tradition of the annual theme. This was something that we started last year. The first one was All Things Through Him, if you all remember. And this year's theme was Do Everything with Love. You see it on our email signatures, it's on the banner in the parking lot. And trust me, it has shown up a time or two in an angry email as well. You're not doing everything with love right now. What we recognize is, in choosing that thing, we knew it would be uplifting, but we also knew that it would be a challenge. And as Father Ben told us in Mass on Sunday, we aren't called to lives of pleasant consumption. We're called to lives of love. And love is a challenge. And so we thought this was a great theme for our year. And we have reflected on it quite a bit as a faculty and staff. I also want to point out about the theme. In the parking lot, you guys have seen the core values on the banners, right? So the next 4 years, we'll cycle through those core values with our school theme. So this year's theme is connected to the idea of charity or love. Next year's theme in our 30th anniversary will be Thy Kingdom Come, which connects with the core value of mission. But over the course of 4 years, we'll cycle through all of those core values. And that's one way that we can ensure that those core values are more than just parking lot banners, that they actually mean something. They actually mean something to us, that they're a goal we aspire towards. In addition to trying to do everything with love, we've also, speaking to the priority of people, been able to both attract and reward some very talented people this year. And some of the key hires at the highest level of the organization that I do want to point to. So the square in blue is a new position that was created, and the squares in green are new positions that we've had the opportunity to hire for. We went through a very exhaustive search process to hire David, and in his capacity as Director of Advancement, he oversees our fundraising efforts as well as our admissions. He came to us from Cristo Rey, where he managed over 120 different corporate partnerships as the Director of their corporate work study. And he brings a lot of expertise and experience, and just has been such a great hire. And David, we really saw that in the gala, and I want to thank you again for all of your effort on that event. Mr. Forty, who is just such a dear asset to our school, will be retiring this year, and thankfully, and we'll talk more about his contribution at the end of the year events as well. But just, I do want to take this opportunity to say what a joy he has been to work with. What a great source of advice. Yeah, I think you should. He doesn't want the glow, but just a great source of advice. And in his time at the school, not only did he provide a much needed sense of stability, but he also did a whole lot to improve the academic quality. And we're seeing the rewards of that effort quite a bit in what our high schoolers are learning and achieving. But the groundwork was really laid there. And I don't have time to go through the whole list of his accomplishments, but I will tell you there are many, and he has made a big impression, a big mark on Pinecrest. And then lastly, Director of Fine Arts. So the amazing, multi-talented Erin McGraw, who's somewhere in the back, also doesn't want a lot of spotlight. But we were, in her, I see a very amazing leader, someone who is a student magnet, someone who could run a Fortune 500 company, to be quite honest. And this was a great way to reward the great work that she's put in. But then, additionally, from the standpoint of the organization, I think it sends a very good and much needed message. When we talk about co-curriculars, we don't simply mean athletics. We also mean fine arts. That those two things are really integral to our curriculum. And we know that God made us for lives of goodness, truth, and beauty. And beauty is just as important as goodness and truth. So it's just a way from a structural standpoint that we can express our values. And then from a logistical standpoint, she has made our lives a lot easier this year. So thank you very much, Erin, for all you've contributed. She always deserves it. Speaking briefly to our programs and to how they get results. Remember, it's mission and then people and programs and then results. We are very pleased to report that we received our reaccreditation from SAAS for the next 5 years. And I want to take a little bit of time to talk about both that process and then some of what's in the report with you all too, because it will help steer our priorities going forward. So the process of accreditation is pretty involved. And we actually maintain 3 predominant accreditations. One is with the Southern Association of Independent Schools. One of them is through what's called Cognia or Advanced Ed, which formerly was known as SACS, if you're familiar with them. And then the third is through RC Education. RC Education is really more focused on our mission, on our Catholic faith, although they do have quite a bit of standards that relate to operational vitality. But our major regional accreditation is through SAAS. We began the process for this reaccreditation last year when we knew it was coming up this year. And so one of the first steps was to do a comprehensive self-study that involved surveys to the whole community. as well as with our faculty and staff. We actually put every single person on a committee, from our maintenance folks to our principals to our teachers, you name it. Everybody had a committee and took part in the self-study and produced a report that then we all compiled and submitted over the summer. I want to thank Amy Bowman, who was the chair of our reaccreditation effort. Amy was just a total rock star, as we would expect, and this would not have gone as smoothly without her kind of steering the ship. So thank you. Once the 100-plus page report was submitted to SAES, the chair who was looking at our case reviews it, did a pre-visit last summer where he spent a couple days on campus, and we went through compliance matters like, what are your hiring processes? Do you have HR policies in place that make sense? What are your academic standards that you're trying to achieve? Very fine grain. After that preliminary visit, then we had a large committee visit that involved focus group interviews from students to teachers to parents to administrators to board trustees, you name it. And all of that results in our reaccreditation with the association. Here were some of the things that they commended us on. And what is neat to see is that you can have 5 strangers who don't know our school come on campus for a couple days and see a lot of the same things that we see in this community. Very strong academic program, excellent college placement, strength of administrative team, faculty, and board of trustees. This was pretty cool because we only had 1 Catholic in the group. And so after we explained to them what a consecrated woman was, and believe me, that took some time, they put this in the report as something that's actually very special and unique about our school, is the use of our consecrated women and priests to support students, families, and faculty. I knew that was the case. That's one of the reasons I wanted to come to this school in the first place, but it's really cool to see a secular body, if you will, recognize that too as part of our secret sauce. Beautiful, well-developed campus, mission-focused departments, especially athletics, vibrant, welcoming community with committed families and exceptionally engaging, well-spoken students. This came up time and again. And then I thought this was cool, intergenerational investment. And what they mean by that is, we have alumni teaching at the school. We have alumni bringing their kids back to the school. The investment in Pinecrest really spans the generations. And eventually we'll have some Doc Center grandchildren on our campus as well. Some of the recommendations I want to share with you as well, because these will kind of play a part in influencing our decisions going forward. Now let me clarify, when you're accredited, you don't necessarily have to do everything they recommend, but you do have to respond to each one of the recommendations within 2 years. And there's 3 ways to respond. Yes, we did it. Yes, but we had to prioritize some other things. No, we don't think that's a good idea, and here are the reasons why, or here's what we're doing instead, right? Nevertheless, these were some of the recommendations. It's also a really good sign when you go into this process and the recommendations aren't surprises to you. If the recommendations are surprises, then that's a bad sign, right? If there are things you're already working on and working towards, like all of these are, then that's great. They highly recommended that we evaluate our high school schedule. Amy will talk more about that later. They recommend that we continue to focus on curricular enhancements. If you guys think back to the last few years, we adopted the Envision math curriculum for pre-K to 8. They said, great job, keep going. This year, we adopted the STEM Scopes curriculum for K to 8. That has been amazing. We talk about wanting to integrate STEM into our curriculum. That allows kids not to memorize science, not to learn science, but to actually do science. Those kids have very hands-on activities. It's just a very well put together curriculum. So they said, keep doing that. Continue to enhance the professional development program for faculty. We've done some really great stuff this year. I won't bore you with all the details of that, but we have we're making good steps, and they said, yep, keep going. They recommended that when we hire the new pre-K-8 principal, that we focus on someone with curricular expertise, because that's the strength that Mr. Forty has brought to us. Maintain a strategic focus during this wave of substantial growth. This was basically, don't try to do too much, just kind of a general cautionary tale. Don't try to do too much too soon. Make sure that you're really intentional and decisive in terms of the priorities that you take on over the next few years. Continued focus on data to inform practice. An example of this is that we adopted some STAR testing this year. Mr. Forty will tell us a little bit more about that during his part. These were some of the comments in a closed-door session with the committee that I just wanted to share with everybody. The school is like a rocket ship. It has all the ingredients to truly take off over the next few years. This is one of the fastest turnaround times for accreditation that I've seen in my over 30 years of serving with SAIS. So that was from our visiting chair. We got our reaccreditation within 2 weeks. It's supposed to take 2 to 3 months. Each member of our committee found this visit very moving on a personal level. I think that's because they experienced the faith life of our school and it touched them. And while I'm not Catholic, if I lived here, I would want my kids in Pinecrest. I want to talk briefly about kind of our legacy and maybe speak a little bit on the road. We all know this. I think we know most of this information, so I'll be brief here. When we talk about it being a process, it really dates back even further than 2017. Initial discussions about this road go as far back as 2005. But nevertheless, in 2017, we had the initial easement approved. This then led to the application for the variance. Some of you probably remember we did the public hearing was held in 2019. The variance was approved, but they wanted a traffic study with the Georgia Department of Transportation. Due to COVID shutdowns, those traffic studies got A, backed up, and B, they said, there's not enough traffic to legitimately study this right now. So that was a bit of a delay. In 2022, 2 years later, the state approved the plan. We did a lead gift at the gala. If you guys remember, we raised about $500,000 that night towards the project in 2022. Led us to demo the F building, and then we dedicated the St. Matthew's field. My hope is in April, we're very close to just one last little hurdle with the county. Once we get that in April, I'm hoping we can break ground. But whether or not it's April, we're going to break ground as soon as possible. And the entire timeline for construction is expected to take roughly 3 months. Just some pictures of our progress at Farm. One of the things that was very touching to me was when we tore down the F building. On Facebook, people were sending in all these memories of times that their families had in the chapel of that building or so forth. And it's really striking to think that in a community that's rooted in its faith, that even an eyesore like that can have a lot of meaning for people. And look what we put in its place. Isn't that an improvement? What a great picture. Here's a reminder of kind of how the road will cut in. If you guys remember in the fall, I offered a town hall for anyone about the rezoning application for this parcel right here. Just an update on that while everyone is here. So the plans were approved for a coffee shop, the human being, to go into that spot. We believe this will be a good thing for our school and our community. They've made a lot of concessions to us during the process to account for traffic flow. Additionally, there are provisions in place where that property can never have something that's obnoxious there, like a vape shop or a gas station or a whole host of things that we wouldn't want close to our school. We really have that nailed down that can't happen. And additionally, I have to think that this parcel will be developed at some point. And so the question is, what do you want to have as your neighbor? Again, I think a coffee shop will be great. I would imagine we will see a lot of Pinecrest bumper stickers going through that drive every day. And if you're curious about what that looks like, the human being has a location on Beaufort Highway over by the Publix and the Beaver Toilet, kind of down that stretch as well. So. Next year will be the 30th anniversary of Pinecrest. And it's really important to remind ourselves that this school happened because families made it happen. Think about the humble origins of this. I mean, I see Mary Gallagher here, you were part of that. Think about the grit, the courage, the tenacity that it took. At one point, the school was in the basement of a Baptist church. The initial class of enrollees boasted 29 students, and every teacher was a volunteer. So to go from that in 1993 to where we are standing here today, 30 years later, is truly awe-inspiring. And I think it is a testament that if a community is committed to a mission, as we said in our theme last year, all things are possible through Christ. And I also think it is a testament to the provision that God has bestowed on this community and on this mission. Now I want everybody to think ahead 30 years from now. What will those families, those children, what will the impact of Pinecrest be? And what is our part in the legacy of the school? We stand on the shoulders of people who came before us. We are now the support, the pillar for those who will follow us. This is just a brief timeline of some of the major infrastructure improvements to the school, but again, it's not about the facilities, it's about the mission and the people. Here's a picture from the first year. And as we look to the fall of 2023, we have a lot of great and exciting plans for how to celebrate the legacy of our school. And one of them is what we are calling the Pinecrest 30 for 30. So we have basically created a list of 30 initiatives or projects to take on across the campus over next year to commemorate 30 years of our legacy. The first of those projects was the Fund the Cause for the gala, for the key card access. Some of them are projects that will require money and resources, and then many of them there are projects that are more about community. I'll give you a couple examples of things that we're planning. For example, having the students do time capsules for the 30th year, I think is going to be a really great thing. Not that anybody ever knows where those time capsules truly go. I'm sure there are some buried around here somewhere, but nevertheless, we're going to do time capsules. We're going to have a rededication of the Tyranny Garden. That's the prayer garden right there by the Arlington Victory statue. When we invite back a lot of the founding families, the early priests, and we have a rededication of that. We pressure wash it, we re-landscape it, we rededicate it. So again, it's going to be a list of things. Some of them will be capital improvement and infrastructure improvement projects, but many of them will be more community type events. And I will share that list with you all during my summer communication when we talk about the theme and I talk about what we're trying to accomplish over this next year. And with that, I would like to pass this mic to our very own David O'Shea.
Thank you. As mentioned earlier, advancement covers two different departments of the school, development and admissions. So throughout the next few slides, I'm going to talk about these two topics, give you a little bit of an update on some of the fundraising initiatives, and then providing some updates on where we are regarding admissions, applications, and re-enrollment. Starting with development. A few of you might recognize yourselves in that picture. As Mr. Rodgers mentioned earlier on, the first part of the 30 for 30 projects was incorporated into the gala as the Fund the Cause. We identified access control doors as the Fund the Cause with a goal of $50,000, and I'm pleased to say that on the evening, thanks to everybody's generosity, we raised $59,000 for that project. Again, the purchase order for this was signed at the beginning of the week, and we'll see that over the next month, that project will begin to take place. It's something that really impacts the entire school. This allows us to put key card access on each door in all of the main buildings that affects all of the grades, all of the faculty and staff and everybody in our community. So we're thankful for people for contributing towards that project. The gala in general was very successful. I mean, it was a fun evening. I think you can see from the picture up there just how fun it actually was. I think the 80s theme really allowed people to relive some of their youth. But overall, it was a great community builder. And early indications suggest we haven't tallied all of the numbers up yet, but from a fundraising development point of view, it looks like it's going to be successful as well. We had a lot of people that contributed to the live auction, the silent auction, also a lot of raffle tickets that are sold. So overall, financially successful, so we're thankful for everybody who participated in that as well. Other events, so you can see that the statistic up there is 7 to 10% of annual budget depends on fundraising. So that's made up of these fundraising initiatives such as the gala, the golf tournament, the pacer, and then we also see that the annual fund is tied in there as well. The two events of the golf tournament and the pacer also proved to be successful this year as well. So with the first one, the golf tournament, we had over 120 golfers that turned out to play, which in comparison to last year's was an increase in the number of players. And it also wasn't just tied into our community. We saw people from other schools or sponsors that came to play. So it's a real promotional event for our school too. And then also from a fundraising point of view, we had lots of sponsors that really helped out with the event. And we saw a 27% increase in the net revenue brought in from that event, from last year's event. So I think that can really go from strength to strength as we continue to build that out. And then also a similar vein with the Paladin Pacer. The Paladin Pacer, not too long ago, we switched it to a trail race, but it was a well-attended event. Maybe smaller numbers this year than we had last year, but again through sponsorships and support from the community. And the decision to change it to a trail race rather than a road race meant that we didn't have to worry about paying for police, so we didn't have to worry about closing down part of the road. So through kind of a little bit of financial prudence, we managed to raise some significant funds. And again, we saw a large increase. It was a 35% increase in the money that we brought in this year in comparison to last year. And again, I think if we continue with the trail race theme, once people start to know more about that, we'll really grow this. The concept of this race originally was to bring in other people from not just Pinecrest but other communities. And I think as word gets out, we'll continue to do that. Moving on to Georgia Goal. Georgia Goal falls under development, and it's significant for our school, particularly with raising money for scholarships and also for financial assistance. If you're unaware of what Goal is, it's a way of redirecting tax credits to scholarship programs to provide opportunities for school choice. There are multiple benefits to it. Obviously, families who may want to attend private education but may not be able to because they may not be able to afford it, can access Goal dollars. And then from the school perspective, it allows us to generate income that can provide scholarships but also offset financial tuition or financial assistance. 2023 contributions to Pinecrest was $185,000 in Goal scholarships, so it was well supported. But we want to continue to build that out. So we appreciate people that contributed to this year. If you haven't and you're interested in finding out a little bit more about it, then feel free to ask me, and there's information on the website about it too. But we want to continue to grow that because it really is a beneficial program. And then finally, for the development fundraising initiatives, annual fund. You can see there that we currently have 100% annual fund contribution from faculty and staff and board, and we're currently at 68% in families. This is an ongoing fundraising initiative that contributes towards operational costs for the school. So we have some strategies in place between now and the end of the school year to identify families who have maybe not given this year but may have given in the past, because we'd like to try and increase that number. And here's really the reason why we want to see that number go up. This is philanthropy as a dollar, and you can see that a big component of it is academic programs and operating expenses. So of that 7 to 10% of the fundraising budget, almost half of that comes from the annual budget. So we want to continue to boost these fundraising efforts so that we can support and grow these different important parts of the school. So these are audited numbers, but again, you can see operating expenses at 33 cents on the dollar and academic programs at 32 make up a significant part of where our fundraising income goes. So again, another reason as to why we want to continue to promote these fundraising events. Switching over to admissions, the main kind of ethos behind our admissions is really more about sustained mission growth rather than just numbers. Obviously, we want to increase the size of the school and bring more people in. We don't just want to bring anybody in. Sustained mission growth is about making sure that we have mission-invested families that are the right fit for Pinecrest. So it's finding that balance between growing the school but finding the right people. And we do that, we promote the school through several different events. You can see up there we've got Meet the Paladins, 2 different events with 8th grade and 5th grade Palatinis, and then peek into pre-K. They're divided between 2 different areas that we focus on. One of them is finding new families to bring them in and encourage them to come to Pinecrest and teach them more about Pinecrest. And the other one is about the retention piece. So obviously, Meet the Paladins, Palatinis, and Peek into Pre-K is for new families. The piece on 8th grade and 5th grade step-ups really is supporting retention by helping families during that transition of moving from one school to the next. And then obviously the biggest part that we have in terms of admissions is open house. We had a successful open house in January, where we had more people on campus than we've had in the last couple of years. We had a 31% increase in people attending open house compared to last year. And that has a knock-on effect with everything else, because the following week after open house, we saw an increase in the number of applications. We had 24 last year, where we had 36 applications that came in that week following open house this year. And then when we look at the breakdown of what grades those applicants, or what grades those prospective families were looking at, we had 19% of the people at open house looking at pre-K, 52 at lower school, 14 middle school, and then 15% at high school. So you can see that it's kind of across the board. Obviously, more at lower school, but that's something that we expect, and that's an area that we kind of target in terms of bringing people into the school so that we can continue to grow the school from the lower grades up. But also a lot of families that would have multiple students in several grades throughout the school. So it bodes well in terms of admissions. You can see here where we are regarding current applications. As of today, we have 100 applications on file. Beginning of April, we'll be sending out acceptance letters to those that will be accepting in their first wave. So looking at the chart here, you can see that over the last 2 years, there's been significant growth within the school. We have 100 applicants right now. To this day last year, so March the 29th last year, we had 111. So we're slightly behind, but it's not necessarily a concern, because you can see that 2 weeks ago we actually surpassed. So there's a lot of ebb and flow with this, and I really anticipate that there'll only be a couple of weeks before we start to see the gold line going up above the green line again, because we'll continue to see applications coming in. But I think the important thing to look at this from this chart is just the continued growth and the trajectory of the school over the last couple of years, where we're seeing that growth of the school. And when we look at indicators, the reason why I say that number is going to pick back up again, and we'll see that we'll go over the target from last year. A lot of that comes from the tours that we currently have, or just the general interest in the school. You can see it in terms of tours. This time last year, so March the 29th last year, we toured 115 families. We're currently at 125. So there's constant interest in the school. But also you have to remember that this is only the beginning of the admissions process. So with the beginning of the admissions process, this is ongoing. We'll send out that first wave of acceptance letters in April. but it will continue all the way through the summer, and then maybe even accepting people if it's a similar pattern to last year in the first 2 or 3 weeks of school. So things obviously bode very well for admissions and interest in the school. And then our re-enrollment numbers obviously look very good too. So we're seeing that there is families here that are obviously very happy here and want to stay here. So the retention numbers are high. Again, you can see that there was 74% 2 years ago. And then we see that that has increased throughout the years, 84% last year, and now at 90%. And again, that's something that we're going to kind of see grow throughout the years. This is the number to date. So from last year, in overall re-enrollment from last year was 92.5%. So we're well on track to surpass that where we are right now in March. So again, kind of showing that there is a tremendous amount of interest in the school, and I think that really emphasizes and validates the tremendous things that are being done by the faculty and staff at the moment. And then finally, just moving on to the last slide, we decided to continue with the family referral rebate program because of the success that we had last year. So this is an opportunity for current families to engage new families in the school and use the referral rebate program to get credit towards tuition. So both families can benefit from this. The current family and the new family receiving $1,000 towards their tuition credit. But another important aspect of this is this ties into the mission growth, the sustainable mission growth, because when we're promoting Pinecrest from within, we know that we're reaching out to families who may reflect our mission. So those families who are coming in, they're going to be similar to maybe families that we have, or certainly buy in and support our school and support our mission. So it's a great opportunity should you know anybody who may be interested in coming to the school. But that covers everything for advancement. I'll be available afterwards for anybody who may have any questions on it. My information is on the website if you ever want to send me any questions, and if you're ever in the middle school building, up there on the second floor, so feel free to come by and see me. Thank you for your time. We'll pass the microphone over to Ms. Jill McCabe, who's going to share a little bit of information on our finance.
So I'm going to actually start off using two of the things that Mr. O'Shea mentioned. The first being annual fund and the second being enrollment, because both of those we take into consideration when we look at setting tuition annually. Annual fund, as Mr. O'Shea mentioned, fills a gap. Our tuition covers between 90 and 93% of our operating budget annually, leaving a gap of 7 to 10% that is filled by the annual fund. That is not unique to Pinecrest. That is something independent schools deal with regularly. But both take part in our analysis on our tuition and setting annually. So you can see here, actually before I get there, we, when looking at setting tuition, we look from a very high level, looking at what's going on in the independent school market, and then bring it down to the local level, to what's going on closer to home. But we do that through a lens of Pinecrest. And what I mean by looking at it through a Pinecrest lens is, first and foremost, recognizing and being thankful to our parents for the commitment and the sacrifices that they make to send their children to Pinecrest. And also to value and recognize our employees, all of our faculty and staff, for delivering on that mission on a daily basis. So we look at the data, but through a Pinecrest lens. So from a national perspective, we look to the independent school management. ISM is an organization that has been created specifically to strengthen independent schools. So they provide some guidance and some education to that end to assist independent schools. And one of their guidance items is on setting tuition. And they recommend that tuition should be set at CPI plus 2%. And the reason the 2% is added back is because the calculation for the CPI includes productivity improvements. there is not a productivity improvement in education. So by adding that 2% back, we take that out of the equation. So you see on this chart, the green dotted line would represent the ISM model over the past 14 years. The gold line actually represents where Pinecrest tuition is. We also look to other organizations. The National Business Officers Association partners with the National Association of Independent Schools, and they collect a ton of data on independent schools, crunch it, and then send back a bunch of statistics. One of their statistics for 2022, again, is a little dated because the information that they collect is audited information. So from 2022, the national average for tuition at independent day schools was $27,249. That number would kind of go along with our ISM model. So I mentioned we start at the national level and then bring it down to locally and look at what is going on in our individual market. This slide here shows tuition for next year for schools, 17-tier schools in the Atlanta metro area, and where Pinecrest falls in line with those. I will say, though, the increases in our schools locally range anywhere from 6% to 10.5% from the current year to next year. The chart clearly shows the yellow line, being Pinecrest, that our tuition is below the median tuition for private and independent schools, faith-based schools in the Atlanta metro area. That's just not enough for us yet, though. So we bring it down one more level, and we look to see what's happening in our school, what's happening here. So we are experiencing as a school, what each one of us are experiencing as individuals, and that is the cost of rising prices. Everything is going up. So whether it's an incidental item that we're purchasing for the classroom, or if it's meals for our teams, or if it's vendor contracts that we're entering into, the price of all of those are going up. More importantly than that, as it affects our community, is what's happening with salaries. So in the gubernatorial election, Governor Kemp promised our teachers in our state that he would increase their salaries $4,000 over 2 years, and he did just that, $2,000 a year. Then this year, Forsyth County School Board came through and increased Forsyth County teachers' salaries by $4,000 in October. So in order to ensure that we remain competitive and that we're able to attract the best quality teachers who can be in the classroom delivering on our mission on a day-to-day basis, we need to be sure that we remain competitive locally. So that's what I meant by taking everything down to what truly is impacting us. So when we're looking at setting tuition, we look at from the high level down to what is impacting our school. That's a little bit of a look forward. I'd like to now take a look back and talk about how we actually allocate revenue dollars. So I'm going to talk back to 2022 numbers, which are audited. And tuition as a dollar, kind of going along with Mr. O'Shea's contributions as a dollar. Tuition as a dollar, 91%, or 91 cents on every dollar is invested back into people and programs. That's our salaries and benefits, instructional supplies, athletics, fine arts, campus ministry. Another 8 cents on the dollar goes for general operating expenses, including infrastructure, marketing, facilities, vendors contracts. And then 2 cents on the dollar goes towards our fundraising. The next step would be looking at how we're actually spending our money. And I know this slide is here this time. So our expenses really are in every program. When we spend, all of our efforts are to the program, to our kids' environments, to what they're experiencing and what they're doing on a daily basis. This slide is kind of organized by level. And it's really done that way to demonstrate a point. The top line of coins, if you add them up, comes up to 60 cents. 60 cents of every dollar of expense is salaries and benefits. If you go down one more line, 49, 50, 58, thank you. 58 cents of every dollar, is on salaries and benefits. Going down one more line, you then include programming. So if you take the 58 cents and add in the next line, we're up to 66 cents of every dollar is in people and programs. The bottom, our other expenses, would be our marketing, fundraising, professional services, depreciation, facilities. But from this slide, what I want to emphasize is that 66 cents of every dollar goes back into our people and our programs. Outside of finance, I do wear another hat. Some of you might not know that, but I'm also the risk manager. So I'd like to talk a little bit about safe environment. In addition to what Mr. Rodgers spoke to earlier about keeping doors locked, the card key access, the training that we do in fire drills and all of those drills that we run on a regular basis, we also have a lot of policies and procedures in the background to ensure that everyone who comes on campus and interacts with our children have been vetted and everyone is kept safe. Annually, our employees go through virtues training, as well as our volunteers and community coaches. And they're also required to stay current on all the monthly bulletins. Our employees also have mandated reporter training and self-harm training. Annual background checks for high-access volunteers and community coaches are done annually. A high-access volunteer is anyone who interacts directly with our children. Our employees are background checked before they are hired, and then we repeat those every 2 years. We're partnering with our vendors to ensure that anyone who they send on campus have also been background checked. We do not do that, but we ask the vendors to certify that their employees on our property have been background checked. And we partner with our families in providing information on various different safety initiatives. We had the internet safety presentation last week. You also received in the newsletters information from the Archdiocese of Atlanta to assist our parents in talking to their children about safe environment. Our commitment doesn't stop there, though. We are so committed to a safe environment that we are now going through a Presidium accreditation. Presidium is known for assessing safety in organizations, and they've come up actually with a formula called the safety formula, and that safety formula looks at policies, procedures, training, follow-through, communication, and through that they assess how safe an organization is. We began this journey in the fall. We've completed phase 1, so we've done the self-assessment, and we are prepared for a site visit. We anticipate Presidium to come through in April, the end of April, to do their site visit, and then provide us with a report. And then we'll work on that report to ensure that we do have that accreditation. It is that important to us. What I really enjoyed in working on this project is speaking to our employees, all of our faculty and staff, about keeping our buildings safe, keeping our children safe, and their knowledge and their ability to talk through every one of our policies and how they implement it and how they roll this out in the classroom and how they talk to people about it was just so impressive. So we are blessed to have a very mission-driven faculty and staff who are focused on your children in every aspect. So I will now turn it over to Mrs. Bowman.
Speaking of our quality faculty, staff, and our people, we are currently in the process of hiring positions for next year. Last year, we developed a pretty thorough application process for potential teacher candidates. It served us really well last year, so we're using the same process this year. I know those of you who have high school students have probably spoken about how many sample teachers they've had in some of their classes. That in-person demo lesson is a really key part to our hiring process. It's served us really well. One of the most exciting things about this year compared to years in the past is how many applicants we're getting. Just like Mr. O'Shea referenced, our open house numbers were high and our tour numbers are high. The number of people who want to work at Pinecrest is also really high. So that's been really encouraging. It's been very time consuming because we have such a thorough process, but this is a good thing to be spending time on. And as Mr. Rodgers has said many times before, the most important decision we make as administrators are the people we put in the room in front of our children. So we are committed to investing that time. We do anticipate a fairly high retention rate across the whole school level. We're anticipating about a 95% retention rate. So those positions that we are hiring for, some of them are known open positions that we have, and some of them are new positions that we are creating in anticipation of growth based on some of the projections that we've been seeing through development and through admissions. So it's pretty exciting. I'm really encouraged by the quality of the teachers that we're bringing to the school. High school specifically is rocking and rolling. Anyone who knows me knows I take any opportunity I can to kind of brag on our college admissions profile because it's one of my favorite documents. So the college profile is a document that every high school in the state of Georgia creates that has statistics and data from the graduating class of the year before. Some of our sort of stats that really we're proud of, we had 90% of the graduates last year receive Hope and Zell. We had nearly $11.5 million in scholarships. We had 3,700 service hours completed. All of this is information on our website, and it speaks not only to the strength of the high school and the programs that we have there, but truly the strength of the entire school, because what they learn in preschool really contributes to how successful they are in college. We will not have the statistics for this year's graduating class until next fall, but I would be remiss if I didn't take an opportunity to just highlight a few of the things that we know already. So this year, for example, our acceptance rate to the University of Georgia was 94%. That's just unheard of. I mean, that's the average acceptance rate to UGA is usually in the low 40s, it's around 42%. And we are waiting on one final student to kind of upload, who's on a wait list to upload some documents. We very well, knock on wood, could be sitting at 100% acceptance. So that's pretty unique for schools here in Georgia. Same can be said for our acceptance rates to Georgia Tech. We highlight those two because we know they're very popular schools for this area. And so, all good things. I can't wait until next fall, until we get the stats from this year's class, because it's always fun. Okay, the last thing I want to kind of touch on in high school, which is a big project that we've been working on, is our evaluation of our high school schedule. So just as Mr. Rodgers mentioned earlier, the SAIS accreditation team made a recommendation that we evaluate the schedule in our high school, which was pretty encouraging for me because this is a project that we've kind of had going for a couple of years now. And so it's something we were already working on, and it was very valuable to get their feedback and their input on how we proceed with that. So at the start of this year, we established a committee consisting of the high school department chairs and administrators. We started by identifying the challenges with our current schedule, the things that we wanted to kind of address. And then we went into a research phase where we did a lot of research, collecting all of the sample schedules from those other 17 faith-based schools in our area, in our market, national schedules. We put together a few focus groups. We came back together as a committee, and we came up with about eight or nine solid proposals. What we're looking to implement is a modified block. So a partial, you won't be full block, but it won't be full traditional. We pitched some of these proposals to our high school faculty, and we took their feedback, and then we tweaked them. And using their feedback, we came up with one that we feel is very solid, and we're really excited about. We are planning on testing this sample schedule the first week of May. So you'll get some information coming out soon when we get back from break about what that's going to look like. And that sample week is going to provide us an opportunity to get more feedback. There will be an opportunity for parents to provide feedback, students, teachers, so that when we get our ultimate new schedule for the fall, we've really kind of made sure that it's something that will fit for here at Pinecrest. Some of the priorities that we were looking to address in adopting this new schedule, a later start time. So we are proposing that we switch the high school start time from 7:45 to 8 o'clock. Wild and crazy, I know, but it's research-based, that this is developmentally what's in the best interest of students of this age group, so we're pretty excited about that. We really wanted to incorporate this flex time. High school, or the middle school, has a pretty good system where they have a built-in flex time to their schedule, and it works really well for them. So we wanted to take the idea of that and translate it to something in the high school that would be really fruitful. Flex time could be anything from office hours for teachers, a math lab for additional math support, a writing lab if you need a paper edited. It could be when you make your makeup tests or quizzes from absences. It could be where you put your class mass or your assembly or your Eucharistic procession. So all those times that we have those weird, funky schedules, we're creating a place for that structurally into the schedule so that we do not have to take up academic time or instructional time from the classes. So creating something that incorporated this flex time was important, all while maintaining an appropriate number of instructional minutes to meet our accreditation. So it's a big puzzle, which is super fun for me. We wanted to balance the test calendar. We're very aware that some of our kids are doing too many things in one day. So creating a schedule that could kind of naturally balance some of that was something we were looking to do. We wanted to increase the variety of our instructional strategies. As a former science teacher, I would be thrilled to have the opportunity to perform a full lab from start to finish in a science class. So really looking at instructional strategies that are proven to be more effective and more engaging, more project-based learning, more opportunities for deeper discussions, more hands-on activities. All of these will be paired with targeted professional development towards our teachers in how to better implement those types of strategies. So it's all kind of tied together in a bigger picture look at how we're looking to just really better engage the students and meet them where they're at developmentally. And lastly, we wanted to improve the impact that athletics has on the early release. So just last week, I had a student miss 3 math classes in 1 week for baseball. That's really, really hard when you're only going to 2 classes out of a week. So finding a schedule that could allow for some rotation at the end of the day will allow our student athletes to better kind of manage their coursework. So this is a rough sketch of what we're kind of looking at. We have essentially kind of a green day and a gold day, for lack of better terms. Tuesday and Thursdays will be block days with 4 classes per day. They're 75-minute classes. And then Monday, Wednesday, and Friday will look pretty similar to what we already have. And those built-in break times, I didn't include all the times because it gets a little messy with all the times. The built-in break times, some of them are shorter and some of them are longer, full periods. That will be where we put things like a mass or like office hours. It could just be a chance for a break, a chance to kind of meet with the teacher if you need some extra help. Some of the weird numbers look funky because we have a lot of considerations here at Pinecrest. We have some shared teachers that work across the middle school and high school. We have shared spaces that we have to consider for lunch times. And so I promise there's a method to the madness and why some of the numbers look juggly. But this is a project that we've been working on for a couple years. I think that it will better serve our students' needs, and I'm pretty excited to kind of get this off and going. That's a little bit about what's been going on in the high school. And from there, I'd like to pass it off to Mr. Forty, who will give you some highlights from the pre-K 8.
Thank you, Amy. One thing that I wanted to mention, which I mentioned earlier this afternoon, was when you look at the test scores from the high school and the admittance to Georgia Tech, I told our middle school and lower school teachers this is a direct result of their instruction over the years. They contributed to the success of our students, and they really need to be applauded for that. Another thing I'd like to add is that the thing that we've done over the last 2 years is we've really started a really good relationship between lower school, middle school, and high school. We meet on a weekly basis in the Academic Information Council. We talk about things so that we blend our programs to the advantage of our kids. So I'm going to lead with formation. In the lower school, the middle school, we live our faith every single day. We start in the morning as we arrive with morning prayer. We end the day with prayer. There's prayer throughout the day. I've listed some of the things that we do that contribute to the formation of our students. We have weekly masses, pre-K on Thursday, lower school K-5 on Fridays, middle school on Tuesdays. Father Matthew, who is sitting here, Gospel Reflections, seems like every day he's doing Gospel Reflection with our kids all the way up the line, from pre-K all the way up to 8th grade. Confessions from 2nd to 8th grade. Retreats. In the fall, our 5th graders have a retreat at the beginning of school to begin their leadership in the lower school. 6th and 7th grade have a day trip for a full day. And our 8th graders have a two-day retreat that has an overnight. Word of Life is a resource that we've been exploring this year in the lower school. We think this is really going to add a lot to the formation of our kids. Theology of the Body. We're very fortunate this year that one of our high school teachers, and Meg Bone, came down to assist our religion teachers with instructing that. That's ongoing right now. This coming Friday, we're going to have a Holy Week retreat in the lower school, all the way from pre-K through 5th grade. We always have adoration. In the middle school, every month, we do the Growing Leaders Aptitude Program. Parents who receive typically a copy of what we're going over. In the lower school, the Virtue Program is ongoing. Mr. Lynch every day talks about the virtue, and virtue changes every month. I want to give special thanks to Father Matthew, Sarah Gagne, for how they contribute to the formation of our kids. Academically, as Mr. Rodgers said earlier, our new resources and the professional development are really making a huge impact with our students and with our staff. We've recently updated resources. We started 2 years ago with Envision Math. We used to use Saxon, which was more of a problem-solving math program. We determined, based on how our students were performing all the way up the line, that we needed more of a conceptual approach where our students learned how to solve problems in various ways. We initiated that, and it's been very successful with our students. This past year, once again, our teachers helped study what they wanted to do with science. We wanted to complement the conceptual and experimental approach that we do with math. So we came about STEM Scope Science. Once again, the exploratory experiences basically assist our students in learning how to learn science rather than just basically learning a lot of facts like the definition of a cloud or various other things that they will soon forget. This is more experimental, and this sticks with the students, and hopefully will have an impact as we go up to middle school and high school. A social studies science program was initiated 2 years ago, and we selected this to help make sure that we tie in with the standards that the state has per grade level, all the way up from 2nd grade up to 8th grade. Once again, Word of Life, that's something our teachers have been using since January. We're going to fully impact that next year, purchasing the teacher editions, the student workbooks that'll help with the formation of our students. So STAR testing. So STAR testing is new. We initiated that in the fall. Our teachers have been trained twice on this. Last week we had a training session based on the assessments that we did early in the fall. Our students have all been assessed from kindergarten all the way to 8th grade once. There'll be another assessment coming up before the end of the school year. This assessment is in reading and mathematics. In the younger grades, it's early literacy. So basically, this is going to be used to assist the curriculum instruction. It'll also be used to help support individual students. We're pretty excited about this. As you heard earlier, we're also using this in the admissions process to help screen to make sure that we see the students that may be potentially coming to our school. So we're really excited about this. We're planning another training session when we come back from spring break in April on the 12th to kind of go over some of the diagnostics and some of the statistics that the teachers have for their early assessments, and then just to continue to plan how we're going to use STAR. So we're really excited about that. As you know, we kind of have a guideline. We use the Standards of Excellence in Georgia kind of as our curriculum, and more importantly, we use the standards for Reverend Christie to go to why we're learning the things that we learn by grade level and subject matter. Professional development has been really huge this year. I think we really are starting to target best practices for using our resources, best practices for engaging students. I think in December, and just about a month ago, we started vertical teaming. This is really important, where we work with the grade level above and below, all the way up the line of subject matter, so that the teachers know what's being taught and how our students are performing grade level to grade level. We'll probably continue this a lot next year. This year we focused a lot on math as to how it went from grade level to grade level, and then also we talked about the writing process. And what are our students writing each grade level? What does that look like? What are the expectations? So we're pretty excited about that direction. For next year, I'm proud to say that we have had very little turnover in the middle school and the lower school. The first grade opening is basically one based on growth. We have 2 kindergarten classes, which will now be 2 first grade classes. As Ms. Bowman said, with the process that we've used, which is very comprehensive, kind of starts with kind of Google Meets to kind of filter out candidates, and then we bring the candidates that we really like on campus to basically have a further interview. They teach a sample lesson, we do a reference check, they meet with the head of school and campus ministry. I'm proud to say that we've made a selection of first grade, and she is really going to be awesome. She's already started the process of transitioning with us. We're still in the process of looking at lower school physical education. We've done an exhaustive search. We're still looking for the right person for that. We do have a middle school candidate that we will be selecting. The only turnover that we have basically in the middle school is going into the military. So, that wasn't really, that was for him something he wants to do, but we're really thrilled that we have found a replacement for the middle school. And the last thing I want to talk about is, my transition into retirement. But first I'll talk about new principal. I'm thrilled that we have selected Blanca Snyder. I'm part of the team for the selection. She's wonderful. We basically have been talking over the last couple of weeks. We talked on the phone today. We're sending her schedules. She's getting highly involved in all the things that we do. We know that she's going to have a great impact. She brings a lot of experience in the middle school. She's got a math background. I'm really excited about working with her because we want her to be successful as she comes into the school. But we're really thrilled that we made the selection. And I just want to thank everybody. It's been 4 great years. When I first came here, I wasn't sure if I was going to be here more than a couple of years, basically, because I retired back in 2010. So this was kind of like a second go at this. But I've been really thrilled to be here. I feel over the years, I think I've gained more by being here with my faith growing and being around the kids. So it's really been a great time for me. So thank you. And I will turn this over to Aaron.
Thank you. It's really a privilege to serve in this role as Director of Fine Arts. Starting this year, it was a great opportunity to unite our team at the middle, lower, and high school levels. There are 6 of us that serve as the educators in the Fine Arts, and we do a variety of things, and I would imagine each and every one of your children experiences our classes in some capacity because it is offered at every level for all of the students at Pinecrest. These are just some of the highlights from this last year. In the fall, we did Willy Wonka, we had a fall band concert, the high school performed Mary Poppins, our 1st and 2nd graders have a showcase, and of course, one of the most highly attended events at Pinecrest is the Pinecrest Christmas, a beautiful tradition to bring all of our campus together to see just the developmental growth of our musicians and our artists. We have the visual art show as well at that. But just a really big, busy fall semester, which we love. Great opportunities to see your children in action and their beautiful talents. In the spring, our band has done an extensive opportunities for all of the really highly motivated and excellent, talented students. They get to participate in district honor bands, all-state band, programs at the University of Georgia. They get to meet with other really elevated musicians as well. So they also took their trip to Universal this year, which was a huge success. We just finished The Lion King a couple weeks ago. Tomorrow we have a 3rd through 5th grade showcase, so we'll be here tomorrow evening as well if you want to join us. And then in the spring we finalized everything with an Arts Week. at the end of April, where you'll see the Piney Awards. That honors our theater students. It also showcases the visual artwork of all of our high school and middle school students. And then there's a band concert that week as well. So we still got a little more in store for you this year, but these are just some of the beautiful highlights that we had. In meeting with my team this year, the really big focus was figuring out how I could support all of the wonderful faculty and staff that help us and to connect us with the campus to make sure that we just continue to be able to offer consistently quality performances and opportunities for our students in all of these areas. So these are some of our goals as we go forward, is to keep that consistent nature. We really want to make sure that everything that we do from here on stays at the level that we're at and just continues to grow. We're going to do that by making sure that our facilities and the materials and things that we have, the supplies we need for our students to be able to do that, whether that is updated sound equipment for the theater, whether that is instruments that need to be replaced or improved, anything from a structural perspective down to the music that they use each semester. We just want to make sure that's there for your students. We definitely have seen that we have so many talented students, but we have to do a better job on our end of sharing that with our community. So we have made lots of efforts and conversations about how we want to share what our students are doing throughout the year to just enhance the marketing and promotion of our students, their talents, their programs, and continue to share that with our community in lots of ways. We do have wonderful parents who love to volunteer for all of our programs. So we have met with lots of individuals this year in the hope of just kind of uniting that for the future years. We want to engage everyone that wants to be part of this and continue to support your students and just make sure that we are connected with you in that regard. The other piece is that I always, and this is kind of my main focus, is to make sure that the teachers have the ability to do their jobs really well so that when your kid walks in the classroom, they have all the things they need, and even if that's just from a personal perspective, so that they can feel like they can be successful in the classroom every day. So we're going to continue as a team to do that. We also are very united as a front. We all really appreciate and enjoy each other and want to make sure that everyone's programs are successful. So we work together really well. And the final thing is that the Drumline has been super instrumental as part of our school community for so many years. And it's kind of shifted hands throughout the years. And what we've done is really worked hard this year to identify what's been working really great, identify their needs for the future, and to shore up this program so that it can continue to just serve our community for years and years to come, but also so that we serve those students that really invest their time and their energy and the families that are behind that as well. So these are just some of the areas you're going to see us address in the coming year, but all based off of hoping to continue to maintain what we're doing and just build that even farther for our students and provide as many opportunities for them to do the beauty that you described earlier, Jake, of sharing the arts and the beautiful God-given talents that they've been blessed with. So thank you for your time. And next up is Mr. Corey.
Thank you for this opportunity. Same as Ms. McGraw said, I have a great time working with your kids, being able to watch them perform out on the fields and in all the different things that we do. If you look at Mr. Rodgers' very first slide, his very first slide talked about our Catholic identity, and it talked about our people, and it talked about our financial stability, and I want to do a little bit of the same. I'm very proud of what the SIS committee says, that our athletic program is very mission fit, and that's a testament to the faith and formation that the coaches provide for your kids within their sports, and the way that we work with each of the teams to provide faith formation within the sport itself. And it's also one of those things that we're constantly trying to grow on when we deal with our fans in terms of the student section and things like that. We were working on sportsmanship, and you can see a great increase in the way that they behave at games and things like that too. So that mission fit approach to what we're trying to do athletically is really starting to show through. The second part with the people, spent a lot of time with Mr. Forty over the last couple weeks, working on PE teachers, trying to also work on coaches, and with Mrs. Bowman as well, trying to make sure that we find quality people to not only serve in the classroom, but also serve in all of the athletic arenas as well, and that's very important. The financial piece of it, one of the things we're going to talk about here just for a minute is a little bit of where does your registration dollar go, right? And what we're using it for. So the athletic budget is basically determined by the athletic fees in terms of whatever we bring in fees is what we spend on that particular sport, right? So the fees basically determine what we spend it on, and that's what I want to go through just a little bit so you understand the fee structure. So one of the good news in the world of inflation and everything going up in prices is that for the third straight year, we won't make any type of increase to the athletic fees. We can maintain the budget based on the current fees that we have without having to make any type of increase. If you look at the breakdown of what you see in terms of what we spend the fees on, right? In the past, when we had a separate meal fee, we no longer have a separate meal fee. It's built into your fee. But here's the cool thing about that, right? We spend this 25% of that fee on the meals, but kids get to eat all the time. And if you've ever been around a bunch of high school boys, they love to eat all the time. So that actually works out to be very good that we can provide that service when we're leaving school, when we're traveling, all these different things. We provide this great opportunity and this great service for them to be able to have food home and away. If you look through our other things, one of the other big expenses is covering our officials, to be able to pay the officials over the course of all of our sports. You can see all of the different categories as they each show up. One of the things that's important that I want to point out with the facilities piece of it is that a part of that fee goes to help us with the day-to-day stuff in the facilities. For example, painting the lines for soccer or chalking the lines for baseball. Those different types of things that we do facilities-wise. And then minor improvements as well. But we're going to talk about the big part of the facility budget in a second. The last thing here that I want to talk about when you look through all of this stuff, equipment and consumables is balls, things like that, right? Things that we use up all the time that we have to constantly replace, right? We go through a lot of baseballs, a lot of basketballs, a lot of footballs, they get worn out, we got to move on. It's things like that. The last piece is a part of that fee we use for staff development for our coaches. Their opportunity to attend clinics, their opportunity to attend conferences, their opportunity to use video packages or things that we can find online or online resources to help them grow not just in their knowledge of the game, but also in their ability to serve as leaders, right, and their leadership staff development as well. So, like I said, those fees will remain the same going into this next year, and that's a little bit of the breakdown of what we do with it. When you look at a couple of things that have gone on this year, there's three basic income streams for athletics. The fees being one, gates and concession being another, and then our sponsorships as well that you'll see in different places around the stadium, up at the baseball field, and in the basketball gym. The fees help us fund the sport itself, right? To cover the officials, to cover the cost of huddle, all of those things that we just talked about. The gate and concession fees and the sponsorship fees help us to do bigger things, bigger projects that are necessary, that are beyond the regular day-to-day maintenance of the field, and help us purchase uniforms and things like that. So just a couple of things when we look at the facilities-wise. When we're talking about baseball right here, so over the last couple of years, we've had to make repairs to the hitting cage, to waterproof it. We've painted it, we got it cleaned up, we got it looking nice and pretty. We replaced the backstop net all the way around the baseball field. We were able to put up a new windscreen, and then this past year put up new foul pole windscreens with our decoration Pinecrest pallet design, right? So the funding that we raise through our sponsorships and through gates and concessions helps us to do those big projects like that. Around the turf field in the upper school gym, if you look around, the shields are gone, right? So the signs that we have in here now and the signs up at the turf field, we were able to wrap the concession stand, we were able to put in new signage around the stadium fields, new signs in and around here. All of those things, again, come from those particular fees. One of the things with the signs, just so you understand where the shields have gone, and where the Hall of Fame plates have gone, one of our goals is, as we continue to grow and build, is to build an electronic Hall of Fame, right? A touchscreen TV that's interactive where you can kind of go through and see our stuff. So the reason for the electronic Hall of Fame, not to give you too much background and detail, but every year when we update the shields, we take all the shields down, we reprint them all, and then we put all the shields back, a new set of shields back up. Right? The same thing goes for buying those plates for the Hall of Fame. Well, as good stewards of the funding that we have, an electronic Hall of Fame is easily editable every single year. We can make a very classy look to go with our electronic Hall of Fame. It'll include all the all-region, it'll include all the all-state, it'll include maybe some photos and things of state championship teams and all that kind of stuff. But it's easily editable, so going forward, it offers us the opportunity to reduce some of the cost of constantly updating our stuff. Lastly, in that group, we talked about uniforms. So we've made over the last 3 years, we've made a slow transition from Nike to Under Armour. We changed vendors. We got away from a previous vendor. We're working with a vendor now that does very well for us. As we made the transition from Nike to Under Armour gave us 4 years to make that transition. Well, we work our uniforms on a 4-year cycle. And basically what that means is that every 4 years, that team should end up with a new set of uniforms, right? So we started with the oldest uniforms that we had, and we started to move forward. So cheerleading, football, and cross country have already received all of their new uniforms. Next year, baseball, lacrosse, and volleyball will all have new uniforms, and we've actually already in the process of ordering them because we do it for July billing, if that makes any sense. So the orders are already going to go in for baseball, for volleyball, and lacrosse for next year. The following year, we'll do soccer and we'll do basketball as far as the big uniforms go across the board. The other sports, tennis, golf, etc., we tend to get stuff each year to give them something new that they can keep that they play in. So they don't have a whole uniform pack the way those other sports do. But at the end of not this coming year, but the following year, we'll be through our 4-year cycle, meaning we'll be all the way through replacing everybody's uniforms. Because we can do all the teams over the course of 3 years, we'll have a year where we don't spend funds on uniforms, which gives us a chance to do some other big project, and then we start the cycle over again. So that we keep our uniforms up to date, and your freshman kid may get brand new uniforms as a freshman, and then not again, or your senior kid may get brand new uniforms as a senior. It just depends on what sport and where they fall into that cycle, but everybody will get new uniforms every 4 years, and we plan for that in that gated concession money and in that sponsorship money to make sure we have the funds to provide for that. Just a couple of things that are going on in our GAPS transition, right? We made a transition from the GHSA to GAPS, and in looking at that, these are some of the things that happened for our teams this year. Middle school volleyball, state champions this year. Varsity boys basketball competed in the Elite Eight. Girls basketball won their first region championship, won the region championship and completed in the Elite Eight. Girls basketball Final Four. We had an individual state runner-up in wrestling. We had a 7th place finisher in fencing in Ethan Tam. Varsity swimming had 10 state finalists. The girls were 3rd place. Our boys were 3rd place overall. Girls were 4th. Middle school swimming, 11 state finalists. As you can see, the kids have been very successful and right where we need to be in terms of being able to compete. Soccer, baseball, lacrosse, track, golf, and tennis are all in the middle of competing, and their playoffs will come up over the next month or so, and we'll be able to add to that list. Last thing in that, so we did add track as a sport this year. We had a handful of kids ask us to, why we didn't have a track team, and if we could, because it's not really dependent on the roster, we added a team. Well, at this point, we currently, you have state qualifying times throughout the year, similar to you do for swimming, if you understand swimming. At this time, we have 9 current state qualifiers, right? Already in our first year back as a team, Mr. and Mrs. Stubbs, we got 2 of them. She's got 2 of those events. But we have 9 state qualifiers so far. So the track kids are finding success too. So all of that is really beautiful, and seeing that what we're investing in is giving us the opportunity to see that success from all of our teams. The kids are having that success on the field and being able to compete. Lastly, just wanted to share this with you. As of right now, so far, out of a class of 31, we did have two of our athletes sign to play college sports. Brock is going to go to Center College and be able to play football, and Ethan is going to go to Bucknell to play tennis, and that's pretty amazing for both of those guys. It just kind of sticks to the trend that about 10% of our kids each year end up going on to play college in the sport of their choice. So that's basically where we are. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to work with your kids. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you, and I will turn it over to Ms. Rowan.
I'm trying to figure out how to fix this. How are we doing? I know this is a lot of information. You've been sitting for a long time. Are you still with us? Still with us. I didn't really get much of a response, actually. I'm not sure. Maybe we should just call it. No. Trust me, there's only a handful of slides between you and me and the wine and cheese where you can ask all your questions. So just hang tight. All right. We were really excited as a campus ministry team to see that the consecrated increased got a shout out in the commendations from our SAIS report. That's something that's very exciting for us. A nice pat on the back because campus ministry is kind of everywhere doing a lot of things all the time. And so we've been asking ourselves over the years, especially more recently, how can we utilize that personnel the best? There are only so many priests and consecrated in the world. We wish they were all here. I wish they were all here. That would be really fun. But how can we make sure that the priests and consecrated are doing the things that are specific to them, the things that they can dedicate their time and be the most effective and have the greatest impact on our students? And one of those things was starting a mentoring program that's more robust and more intentional than it has been in the past. So we want to make sure that our priests and consecrated, our beloved Teresa Maziar is here. If you haven't met her, you should. It'll change your life. That each of these priests and consecrated are interfacing with our students in a way that helps reinforce the fact that all of our students are known and loved, that they get to spend time with them intentionally, whether it's throwing the football on the field, recess with them, the way Father Matthew does. That's kind of that presence approach for lower school. Or our middle schoolers, a little bit more of a focused approach, having group lunches by grade or by gender to talk about what's going on in the grade, plan toward retreats, unpack retreat experiences together, etc. In this campus ministry room we happen to have on the 3rd floor, a really nice little hangout. And then in high school, as they're starting to get to a place of more maturity in their own faith, but also just decision making and having a little bit bigger hurdles to get over, to have more focused time where they can be seen more frequently. And whether that's just by grades, they have a system with the theology classes where by grades they'll go into groups and chat with different designated mentors, and they're free to share as much or as little as they want, right? But then for those students who really want to go deep and say, I've got particular questions about the faith, which that's always an open door thing, right? But I really am trying to figure out how to make a good decision about where God wants me next. Or, yeah, I just want to get to know myself better. I want to learn how to pray. What is this like prayer thing that we do at school? It seems like there's something I'm missing. How can I grow in that? They can sign up for one-on-one mentoring with Father Terrence or with Miss Maziar's. And that's borne a lot of fruit. Another thing we wanted to do this year was to reestablish that international mission trip that we have a tradition of doing from our very first graduating class at Pinecrest. The last 2 years, we had to stay domestic because of COVID, and there were a lot of benefits to staying in the country. But we just did really find that there's nothing that compares to the experience these students have when they go outside of their culture, outside of their country. Even though Louisiana, where we were before, is almost like another country, Mexico was our mission base this year, and it was just a phenomenal experience, and it did have every bit the impact that we were hoping it would for our students. So we're very, very proud of that. Look at those happy faces. Some of those kids, I'm not exaggerating, one of those kids in particular, I hadn't seen smile since probably 6th grade. And he shows up for this mission trip, and he was a different kid. Chatting our ear off, serving, picking up little kids in the village, carrying them on his shoulders, right? It just does something different for our kids to have that drastic change of scenery and rhythm of life. And then lastly, something that you all know very well because you're here, is that Pinecrest is not just a school for kids, it's a school for your whole family in a sense, right? Your kid doesn't just come here, you are also very bought into that mission. And so we, and campus ministry are very aware that we want to be supporting that faith life and that growth for our families as well. And so there's a whole list, there's a whole team of people in the family life kind of department, if you will, under campus ministry right now, who are bringing forward all these initiatives and making them happen. We may not even know that half of them have happened, but there's always something going on for our families. So here's just a few. This year we started an international rosary to highlight the beautiful cultural diversity of our school. It was the first time we did it, it kind of pulled it together even at pretty short notice from just an inspiration of the Holy Spirit. And we had 200 people show up, packed into the lower school gym. So we hope to make that a tradition that we keep. The marriage retreat continues. This is the 2nd year doing it. That's that. Some of you are in this picture actually. A really beautiful celebration of marriage. We had 25 couples come together and through testimonies and sharing and sometimes special times of prayer really boosted their faith life as a couple. 40 hours of adoration we just completed. I'm sure you heard about that, as well as lower school family missions coming up this next week for Holy Week. As well, something that we leverage well, but we want to continue to grow in, is the fact that we're a Brigham Christie school. And because of that, there's a whole locality of Brigham Christie members that we want to grow in our collaboration with. To be clear about our identity as a Brigham Christie school, what does that even mean? Can half the people in this room even say those words, right? To just have it be a little more visible, but also make it known that it's open to everyone here. So we're part of the locality's evangelization planning process so that we can plug into the power that's happening with what Brigham Christie is trying to do and having an impact on the Atlanta area. What's Pinecrest's role in that? But also, how can that locality come into what we're trying to do here at the school, and we can support each other mutually. And then also having open, what we call encounter with Christ, these moments of kind of a Bible study and sharing and accountability that's kind of particular to Brigham Christie, but just to open up a handful of those to say, hey, if you ever want to be part of that, come on over. We would love to have you experience that. And so that's all I've got for Brigham Christie, for campus ministry. And I'm going to turn it over to Knox to Blonsire.
Thank you, Emily. And congratulations on your acceptance to number 82. I hate to disappoint, I'm not Blanca Snyder, but I do want to share a little bit about the process for selecting her. And then while she couldn't be here this evening, she did prepare a video for our community, so we'll watch that to close out our evening. The first thing we did for the process was, why reinvent the wheel? There was a lot of research and community conversation that was developed in terms of to support the search process for my own role a few years ago. And so we took some of those profile pieces and we have used them not only to identify Amy as our high school principal last year, but again to identify Blanca as the pre-K to 8 principal for this coming school year. In the position profile, I shared with you a little bit more detailed version of this in an earlier email in this school year. But essentially, we're looking at kind of four different domains. This domain is really about our mission, about our core values. We want someone who will do everything with love, who will pursue excellence, who is humble, and who is rooted in our mission. We wanted someone who embodies some of the core attributes that we look for in terms of our educators, in terms of their dedication, their commitment, and so forth. This is what shows up on the resume. We need someone who's highly qualified and competent for the role. And then these are those intangible things: leadership presence, emotional intelligence, general likability and demeanor. And all of these are pretty equally weighted. You can imagine that if you have an abundance of one of these and a deficit of another, you're not as effective as you could be as a leader. So we were looking for all of those in kind of equal tension with one another. And then this was the process that we developed and underwent to support finding that person. And you can see that it is essentially a 9-step process. I do remember my Roman numerals. The search committee was myself, Mr. Forty, and Ms. Bowman. We reviewed the position description and further developed the profile, especially the detail of that profile. Then we reached out to a search firm, Southern Teachers Agency, that's one of the premier search firms for independent schools, serving schools really all over the country and internationally, to generate a pool of candidates. Generate a pool of candidates, reviewed applications, did an initial screening interview, had a panel interview with our search committee here, then started to develop the process for finalists. And we pulled together, literally, these candidates interviewed in front of over 50 different people, including middle school students, which I want to tell you, the Middle School Student Council is a Shark Tank. One of my favorite questions was, they started with some softballs, and then one of the grumpier middle school boys said something to the effect of, "All right, let me cut to the chase. Why should we hire you?" The thing that was really cool on the debriefing that I did, and Mr. Lynch and Ms. Bone, we had the hiring committee actually visit the middle school student council to do the debriefing because we thought, hey, this is a classroom experience for our kids too. Like, let's not lose this opportunity to further develop them as Christian leaders right now, in addition to providing us great feedback and data for our decision. So we did this debriefing thing, and what was really cool to see was that the same things that the adults noticed during the process, from the parents to the campus ministry team to the admin to all the teachers, everyone who interviewed, the same things they noticed were the same things that our kids noticed. If a candidate was vague with an answer on a specific question, the kids called them out for it. Or if a candidate had a particular strength in terms of relating with one another or making eye contact, the kids noticed that stuff. So that was really cool to see. I wish you all could have been a fly on the wall to see those conversations. It was really fantastic. Anyway, after that entire process, which took for a very long time, and I do want to take this opportunity again to thank our Papa Board because they represented the parents during this process and did a phenomenal job. And I know that was a lot of work and time for you guys, and I appreciate it. But after that extensive process, we chose Blanca Snyder, and again, I'm very thrilled to work with her. Some of the qualities that I see in her personally is that she brings a lot of the strengths that Mr. Forty has contributed to the school. Additionally, I think she is the right person to carry those programs forward. She's a collaborative leader. She's very warm and kind. She's deeply invested in our mission, and she's someone who has a big picture way of thinking. That she is kind of got a visionary streak to her, which I think will really bring us into the next phase of our school's evolution. So, some of you got to meet her and her husband at the gala on Saturday, and she couldn't be here, like I said, but she wanted to prepare this video for everybody.
Good evening. My name is Blanca Snyder, and I'm the incoming pre-K through 8th principal. I want to begin by sharing how truly grateful and blessed I feel to be joining such a faith-filled community. From the moment I stepped foot on Pinecrest Academy's campus just a few weeks ago, the joy was palpable in the classrooms, the creative energy from the teachers was infectious, and it was clear that Christ is the reason for the school. I also want to take a moment to thank Mr. Forty, Mr. Rodgers, Mrs. Bellman, all the academic deans, the parents, the teachers, the staff, and the students who've taken their time to meet with me and to welcome me to the campus. Thank you. I also wanted to take this time to share a little bit about myself. I am the product of immigrant parents who came to this country for different reasons, but with the same idea in mind, seeking new opportunities and better opportunities to continue moving forward. With faith at their center, a hard work ethic, and the idea that education was the key to better choices, they made many sacrifices that allowed them to grow, to then allow the opportunities that my brothers and I have been able to have. I was able to attend Catholic independent schools in Chicago, growing up through high school, and then went on to DePaul University to receive my bachelor's degree. I later pursued a master's degree from the University of Miami, Communication Studies. After that time, I moved to Houston and had the opportunity to work as a coordinator of undergraduate and graduate recruitment at a university in Houston that sent me to different places along the valley. It was there that I realized my calling to want to be in education and to serve students and help them access not only pre-K through 12 education, but also higher education. And I went on to earn my doctorate from the University of Houston in administration and supervision. I spent some years in the higher education policy world seeking to understand better how to align pre-K through 16 and allow more access points for underserved students. During the time, I was also growing our family, and I realized that God not only called me to be an educator, but also had called me to be a mother, and I was trying to find ways to bridge both. I was given the opportunity to be a substitute teacher at my children's school, and I knew the Holy Spirit was speaking to me then, and my vocation was to become a teacher. I taught 8th grade math, algebra, geometry, and introduction to algebra for a few years, and then was able to become the head of middle school here at a Catholic independent school in Austin, Texas. During this last year, my husband and I have also had a chance to really think about where we want to go in the future. We have a lot of family in the Southeast, ranging from Nashville to South Carolina to Tampa, and have always sought a possibility in the Atlanta area. So we felt incredibly joyful when we saw that Pinecrest Academy was hiring, and was really drawn to the ways in which the regular Christie education is so impactful and aligned with our core beliefs of educating and forming the whole child. One area we know does not complete the child, but truly to put them in a position to be transformative leaders, we need to be able to attend and guide them in all areas: the mind, the body, the spirit, and the heart, all which form that integral formation, so exciting and enriching to our children. My goal during the first year is to sincerely listen and to learn even more in depth about the community, how the core mission and values are lived each day, and to see the ways in which I can partner with parents, I can partner with Mrs. Bowman, to partner with Mr. Rodgers and the faculty and the staff, so we can continue moving the current positive momentum forward and only further enrich our students. My husband and my 4 children and myself are super excited to be joining the community. I have a current 9th grader, Mateo, a current 7th grader, Elena, a current 5th grader, Benjamin, and a current 2nd grader, Lucia. We look forward to being on campus, and I look forward to meeting each and every one of you and to make our way to Atlanta this summer. I appreciate you taking the time to listen, and of course, please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, and otherwise have a blessed and wonderful evening.
All right. Thank you guys so much for enduring this marathon of information. Why don't we close with a quick prayer and then have some wine and cheese if you like. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, what an incredible community and a mission to serve. Thank you for the partnership that we enjoy. And Lord, again, we come before you asking that you send your Holy Spirit, the Comforter, to Nashville to communicate, to comfort those grieving in the Covenant School. Lord, continue to bless our school and our community. And we ask for the intercession of our blessed mothers. Together we pray. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Christ our King, but the most pure, in the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.